Hello. So, chapter 2 of Am I Neurodivergent? Basically, recapping my 2022, my unexpected autism and ADHD year, finding out in my early 40s my brain's just been wired differently all along, processing that and hoping to help other people who might be having a bit of a neurodivergent light bulb moment after years of just kind of struggling and feeling a bit different to other people, but not really knowing why. So in my last video, link hopefully up here somewhere, we talked about that initial light bulb moment. For me, it was reading an article about adults having their kids diagnosed with autism and suddenly realizing a lot of the criteria they were reading about fit them as well. That led me to take the most widely recognized autism self-test, the AQ test. It's 50 questions, only takes about 5 minutes, 10 depending on how much you overanalyze, probably a lot, and scoring high enough to have significant autistic traits with a recommendation. I speak to a licensed therapist about it. So I'd done the test, scored high, still didn't really know what to do with that information. This is still the tail end of 2021, the week between Christmas and New Year. I was at home for the holidays. I took this test and suddenly started seeing my whole life that had gone before through a completely different lens. The link to the AQ test, by the way, I'll link it again in the video description below. I'm still not very good at making these videos. This is all pretty new to me. Can you possibly tell? I thought I could post a link to the AQ test within these videos. I'd seen others do it. I tried last time and I couldn't. It turns out you need a certain amount of viewers to be able to do that, and I'm still just mumbling into the abyss at this point. We'll hopefully get there in terms of me being able to edit and patch in visual links in future, but for the time being, please just click the link in the description of this video or the link in the description of the previous video to take the AQ self-test for autism and see how you get on with it. I said last time I wasn't going to over-explain the AQ test, as different elements would ring true for different people. It's a well-worn cliche that if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, but it's a cliche because it's true. So I won't break the whole test down or share it on my screen or anything like that, but the elements that rang really true for me in the AQ test that I didn't even realise were autistic traits were things like prefer to do things on your own, prefer to do things the same way over and over, frequently get so absorbed in one thing that I lose sight of other things, notice small sounds when others don't, notice details, patterns, or strings of similar information that others may not, find social situations and chit-chat quite awkward and difficult, find it hard to sustain small talk, have strong interests or hobbies and get pretty upset when you can't pursue those interests or hobbies, find it hard to make new friendships, get upset when my daily routine's disturbed, struggle to multitask and prefer to hyper focus on one thing at a time, hate talking on the phone, what else, have quite a sophisticated sense of humour, but also find structured jokes with punchlines quite trite and stupid. Find it hard to get back to what I was doing if I get interrupted. Can at times be repetitive. Love to collect information about different categories of things and then systematize that information in an overly complex way that completely makes sense to me, but might just look batshit crazy to others. Like to plan out activities in advance so that I know what to expect. Get quite anxious in new situations. Get quite anxious meeting new people. These sort of things. Now, all of this is true for me. At times more than others, that would be the co-occurring ADHD, which would emerge later, but always there, all the time, even when I was masking it. So there it was, pretty unambiguous. I wasn't just a quirky introvert, I was actually autistic. So what next? For me, I Googled and I found the National Autistic Society here in the UK. Again, link below in the description until I can work out how to edit in a link card somewhere up on the screen. Link to the National Autistic Society below alongside the AQ test. The National Autistic Society has a ton of good info, including a pre-diagnosis page, which is the one I've linked to, where you've realised you're autistic. You've coped with life in your own way, but it's probably taken a lot out of you along the way. The big decision now is whether you're happy just self-diagnosing yourself or whether you want to chase a formal diagnosis to be sure that you are. By the way, there's research from the University of Washington, I think, that if you've self-diagnosed as autistic, you almost certainly are autistic. If you've carefully researched the topic and strongly resonate with the experience of the autistic community, you're very probably autistic. There's pros and cons to both approaches, either getting a formal diagnosis or being content to self-diagnose, and we'll get into that a bit more next time. That'll probably be the topic of my next one. In the meantime, if you recognise much of this and you're curious about my own journey and coming to terms with the late autism and ADHD diagnosis, please click the little Saturn in the corner to subscribe. Thanks for listening to these rambles, and I'll see you next Sunday for the next instalment of this. Hope they're going to be useful. Cheers.